All right, so yesterday was kind of a strange day. I got to work super early. I stayed at work, and things just weren't happening, right? Nothing was really going on. And at McDonald's, when things get slow, no customers are coming in, no one's pulling up to the drive through, you begin to wonder what's going on. Like yesterday, mid morning, I decided that I was going to go grab a cup of coffee because there wasn't a whole lot going on. And when I got there, all the employees were joking with one another. There was no cars outside. There was no one in the drive-through lane at Starbucks. And I thought to myself, there's a Jersey Mike's, a Starbucks, a wings place, and a hamburger place, and there's no one here. Could have been because it was only 10 o'clock in the morning, but at the same time, people are cutting back. So when I got back to McDonald's, I asked ChatGPT this one simple question. What are strong indicators of a weak economy? And we have all of them, people. Every indicator of a weak economy and people long term unemployed. You're talking about people who have experience and skills and college degrees. These are people who are facing rising evictions and people who are living in one bedroom apartments with their extended family. They're just laying out like a homeless shelter in there. When rent consumes more than 50% of your income, which is me, leaving almost nothing for savings or emergency, homeless shelters report overflows and not enough beds. You know that the economy is doing really bad. Why? One simple reason. No one's paying you enough to live. And why is that? Because there's a direct correlation between record profits and record poverty in this country. And right now, we have record poverty. The corporations are doing great. Rich people can't even tell that inflation exists. The tariffs are only hurting poor people. And everything about this economy is designed to do one thing: hurt poor people. An increased reliance on food banks, food stamps that you're not going to get, grocery carts that are barely full, and people skipping meals or pretending that they don't need to eat. If you wake up every morning like myself and you go outside and you grab two handfuls of dirt and call it breakfast, there's obviously something fundamentally wrong with our society. Things shouldn't be this hard for people who work, right? We've all said that before. I work. Why am I poor? Simple reason. Corporations have gotten greedier than ever, and they don't care about the pain they're inflicting on the proletariat. They never have. But lately, it feels even worse. In fact, yesterday, someone compared our current society to straight up slavery. It's not even a joke. When your wages can't buy you the basic things you need, then you're in big trouble. And the Epic Economist was on point. The Epic Economist, in his last three episodes, has basically been my channel, warning you, telling you that things aren't going to get better. They're going to get worse. And we all woke up to find out that the federal government had shut down, which I've told a bunch of people I don't care. I don't go to national parks. I'm not depending on the federal government for any reason, for nothing at all. And it's petty to see rich people fight. Politicians shouldn't fight. But hopefully, this government shutdown will at least keep them from collecting their paychecks. Because I've always said that if you want to make rich people and rich politicians feel the pain of the proletariat, start paying them like one. Instead of offering them over $100,000 a year, offer them the minimum wage. Or better yet, offer them a hourly rate plus tips. Like a person working in a restaurant, you get paid $2.75 plus whatever tips you can get from the customers by making them feel guilty that you make $2.75 an hour. But how can we have rich people doing that? Because if there's one thing that you know for certain is that rich people get into politics not to better society, but to profit from it. That's why everyone does anything. The only people who can't profit from society are poor people and people that don't have rich people connections. Because if there's something that we've all experienced together as poor people is the lack of opportunity to do better in our society. And it's simply put, it was designed that way. Because if you're doing better, then you're eating into corporate profits. But as long as we have extreme poverty and people working for unlivable wages, well, that money goes somewhere. And it's definitely not into your pocket. Growth in low wage, part time, or gig jobs instead of stable, full time work. We all know this. I mean, every day at McDonald's, I see at least 10 food delivery drivers that show up at the building. At least, at the very least. And lately, I've seen some pretty good looking women doing driving. And not to say that good looking women shouldn't have to work, but it goes to show that they're not just sitting on OnlyFans. They're doing delivery work. Some of the lowest work that you can do in our society when you are struggling to pay your bills. And that's very, very strange to me. In fact, yesterday I was pulling out of the Walmart parking lot at Rural and Southern, and there was a 10 out of 10 homeless girl standing in the parking lot with a cardboard sign and with the suitcase right next to her. So she was freshly homeless. Her suitcase was a bright pink color. You could tell that suitcase, she didn't get that suitcase at Walmart. Her suitcase looked expensive. And she still looked incredibly good. She's a little dirty. We can clean that up with a little Windex, right? But that's who the freshly homeless are. There are more and more people like you and me. People who worked, possibly lost their jobs, and now with no way of making money because, let's face it, no one wants to hire homeless people. They're dirty, sometimes mentally insane. Being out in the sun for too long will do that to anyone. But that's the face of homelessness in America. People who've never been homeless before, but because there are no jobs, and people struggling with multiple jobs but unable to cover their rent, it's getting ugly out there. Long job searches, underemployment, or people giving up looking for work. I have so many people that I know whose significant other and themselves have been looking for work for over a year. You can only go so long without finding jobs. And right now, there are more people than jobs. The latest job report shows that they've lost jobs rather than made jobs in the private sector this month. Or, excuse me, last month. I forgot, it's October 1st already. That September went by really quick for me. I'm not sure if you guys felt that too, but it felt like we were on edge all month. This administration has been putting poor people in the worst position that we've ever seen. We have records unemployment right now, and yet we're being told that it's 4%. Do you really buy that the unemployment is 4%? Do you really buy that, what do they call that? Oh my gosh. Functional unemployment isn't high. I mean, because everyone is making nothing. So if your functional unemployment's getting closer and closer to 100%, because let's face it, you're not making it on what you're making. I'm not making it up what I'm making at McDonald's right now. So if everyone is at this level, how is society even staying together? More people in make work jobs, delivery, retail, call centers, while skilled workers remain unemployed. Now, what does that mean? It means that people who have skills aren't making it either. That to me signals that a shift in society has taken place a long time ago. We're just seeing a different part of it at this point. Because I've been underemployed my entire life. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. And I spent half my life in college, and I could see every single professor I have ever had at university. Let's say they close down the state university and those professors have to go look for work. And there's no work in education because people are turning away from it. Gen Z especially is saying, you know what, I am not going to go into debt for the rest of my life just to get an entry level job. So there may not be those education jobs for all of these educated people whose life has been devoted to teaching. So they'd have to go out there and look for work at a Starbucks, at a gas station, at a Quick Trip, maybe even, who knows, at a Chuck E. Cheese. And they would be so out of place because most of these people have lived very, very easy lives. I have a Spanish professor that I've known since I was a teenager, since I was 16. And all she's ever done is teach. If somehow she lost that position, she wouldn't be able to reintegrate herself into society. And there are millions of people like that who have never had to take a manual labor job in their lives. They've lived such sheltered lives that they don't even understand what it's like not to have money. And more of those people are going to find themselves in terrible situations where they're looking through the want ads, wondering whether or not they're going to be able to survive. Because there's only so much plasma you can donate. I mean, I had a friend years ago who had so many holes in their arm from donating plasma, it looked like a war zone. And she's very sensitive about this because she had to do it. Without doing this, she couldn't pay her bills. And I often wonder, it's like, well, if that's where we're at in society, when are people just going to start showing up at the organ harvest place? Where they're just going to be blunt about it. It's going to be an ad running on Indeed on the side of the screen that says, well, can't find work? Your kidney's in good shape? You only need one. That's where we're getting to in society. People are skipping doctor's visits, rising trips to the ER for basic care, high stress, anxiety, and depression, visible decline in physical health. That's something that I saw when I worked in retail. It was across the board. People's hair would thin, people would get skinnier, people's attitude towards life would start to diminish. You would see in real time what physical health declines because these people don't have money to take care of themselves. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources, and frankly, you don't care at that point. You're in such a level of survival mode that you just don't care anymore. And once you reach that point, it's hard to go back the other way because you're relying more on credit cards, you're relying on your family for help. You're hoping that something will change before you truly hit rock bottom. And I'm here doing this channel to show you and to tell you that rock bottom isn't going to be bottom enough. For a lot of members of our current society, poverty is going to turn into a way of life. You think it's dystopian now, seeing the tent cities, seeing homeless people on every corner, seeing people that normally wouldn't be facing these types of trials and tribulation, but they are. And for most people, the shock of becoming homeless will be too much, and they won't be able to deal with it. I mean, there's a reason why when you look at certain homeless people, they don't look like they're home anymore. When you're taking a number 2 on the sidewalk while you watch cars drive by, well, the social contract between you and society that said as long as you worked and you did your due diligence, that you would always live inside has broken for millions of people. And at that point, when the social contract breaks down, well, different rules apply. When you're trying not to starve to death, well, you're not thinking about law and order and getting another job. No, your priorities go somewhere else. Human beings change dramatically once it turns into a survival situation. And the vast majority of America's poor people are turning everyday life into a survival situation. Will you get enough shelter today? Will you get enough food? What is your outlook for tomorrow? Well, I stopped thinking about those things. I've said this in a few videos, but I stopped thinking about my past and I stopped thinking about the future. When you become that animal, a pigeon, you have the mind of a pigeon. The only thing that you understand is whether or not you can find something to eat right now. Nothing else matters. No family, no friends, no past, no future. You live in the now. And that's one of the most frightening things that human beings can go into that mindset because you don't know the uncertainties of tomorrow because you don't have money, you don't have savings, and you don't have a single damn person in the world that cares about you. It's just you and life. And you're struggling to keep that life on. Your light bulb is on, but it's temporary. When you choose not to remember anything that happened to you in the past, like I have, and you realize that you have no retirement, there is no end to work in this world. It's just work until they put you in the ground and you retire in the ground. Every time you hear the word retire now, I want you to associate that word with being put into your pine bed. And that's where you're going to spend the rest of eternity, wondering why you had to spend your entire life working as a poor person only to retire into the pine box. And only then will you find the rest that you've been seeking your entire life.